Rekindled Love Short Story by JameliaAlicia. Relyn was 6 years old when her life shifted, quietly, without warning, like the tide turning while everyone else was looking the other way. Her mum left for England, and Relyn was left behind living with her paternal grandma, but she became ill. Relyn ended up living with her paternal aunt, who was very abusive. During this time, her aunt was physically abusive to Relyn because she had strong dislike to Relyn's mother. In this time, Relyn's mother decided to send for Relyn to come and join her in England, but the travel documents needed to be finalized, which took a few years. In this time, Relyn was getting older in age, and she was 11 years old. Her aunt decided that since Relyn was going to leave the country soon, she set her off to live with her maternal grandma in another parish. That is how she met Wallander. Her aunt sent Relyn off to live with her grandma on her mother's side in another parish. Deeper inland, the roads narrowed and the days moved slower. The house stood high on a small rise, wrapped in bougainvillea and old stories. From the veranda, you could see the trees engulfed around the houses like a crescent of a castle, the whistle of the trees moving from side to side like a sweet melody, the fruit's richness in color amongst the branches and the leaves. That was where Relyn met Wallander. He belonged to the parish in the way boys often belong to places before they learn to leave them. He walked with ease, spoke little, and watched her as if she were something newly arrived, something rare. He followed her with his eyes more than his feet. Relyn noticed, but she did not yet understand what attention meant. She was too young to call it love. All she knew was that when Wallander was nearby, the world felt fuller, brighter somehow. When he wasn't, something felt unsettled. At 13, Relyn left again. This time, she was sent overseas, joining her mother who had emigrated years before. The departure was sudden. There were no goodbyes, no explanations given to boys who did not yet know how to ask questions. Wallander woke one morning to find she was gone. She disappeared from the parish, as if she had never been there at all. From abroad, Relyn thought often of home. The heat, the salt air, her grandmother's voice calling her name at dusk. One evening, driven by longing she couldn't explain, she wrote to Wallander. A careful letter, polite, measured. She did not write, "I miss you." She wrote, "I hope you are doing well." He replied. Their letters crossed the sea like quiet confessions. Still, Relyn could not name her feelings. Life overseas moved fast. New faces, new loves, new distractions. Eventually, the letters stopped. Yet somewhere deep within her, something stayed alive. Unspoken, unresolved. Years passed. They grew into adults, shaped by distance and disappointment. Wallander left the island for America, chasing opportunity, carrying the island in his accent, even when his life no longer reflected it. Relyn returned to the Caribbean on holidays, each time feeling the familiar pull of memory. They met again as adults in the tropics. At first, it felt like fate reclaiming its due. Warm nights, rum-soft conversations, the illusion that childhood had waited patiently for them both. But as days passed, Wallander's charm sharpened into control. His affection demanded silence. His presence carried unease. Then the truth surfaced. The place he took her for a weekend, tucked behind palm trees and quiet roads, was not a retreat. It was his home, his business, his life, a wife, a child. Relyn had unknowingly walked into a lie built carefully around her. She ended it as soon as she understood. Fear replaced affection. The boy she once loved had become a man she did not recognize. Calculating, narcissistic, emotionally distant. Relyn returned to her life, but love did not come easily after that. Relationships followed, many of them disastrous. She married another man, built a family, but something in her remained bruised, cautious. Years later, her mother returned to the Caribbean to reflect, to rest, to remember. Relyn followed, carrying her own quiet need for closure. She wrote to Wallander once more. There was no reply. Still, word traveled the way it always does on small islands. Wallander's brother, living nearby, let him know Relyn was back. They met for a drink in a different town. Polite, careful, familiar and strange all at once. Wallander drove her back to her grandmother's house. He did not stay with her, and he went off, spend the night at his family home. The next morning, he said goodbye. He said he would return at his own mother's house, which is quite close by. In the morning, he pulled up in his car and said goodbye to Relyn. A few days later, he came offering a weekend away. Only afterwards did Relyn understand the place. The same place where his wife and child lived. When Relyn returned to England, deception repeated itself, refined but unchanged. Back overseas, silence followed. Within time, Relyn met another man. The relationship moved quickly, perhaps out of fear of being alone, perhaps from exhaustion. She married him. They had a child. Time moved on. When her child was 2, Relyn reached out through her grandmother again, as the marriage was unhappy and full of disappointments. Relyn reached to her grandma to see if she gets Wallander's phone number from his mother who lives nearby, which Relyn did. He is now living in America. They spoke. Then he invited her to visit. Relyn traveled with her child. She stayed 2 weeks. She returned again and again. 6 visits over the years. Each time, she felt him slipping further away. Age had hardened him. His warmth had cooled. His presence was physical, but never emotional. She realized she was in love with a memory. Their final meeting happened back in the Caribbean, years later, as they are much mature in age, with children now adults. Wallander was distant, unreachable. The energy between them had changed. What once felt inevitable now felt forced. She tried, softly, carefully, to revive what had once been there. But love cannot survive where effort flows in only one direction. When she returned home to England, she tried to keep contact alive. He did not respond. The heartbreak was quiet and enduring. Relyn learned that some loves belong to childhood and memory, not to the future. That not every connection is meant to last, no matter how deep it once ran. That holding on too long can become its own kind of loss. She would have accepted friendship. Wallander did not offer even that. And so she let go, carrying the love with her, but leaving the man behind. Some fires, once rekindled, only teach you why they were allowed to burn out.